Hello, welcome to Life Talk for Tuesday, April the 30th, 2019. I'm Mark Crutcher, president of Life Dynamics, and I'm going to introduce you this week by my assistant, Renee.
Hello.
Hello, Renee. And my daughter, Sheila, the second part of the usual suspects.
Yes.
We got some kind of bizarre stories this
We
week.
have some very bizarre stories, very confusing to say the least. I have an article here. There is a sex cult leader. The group is called Nxivm. It's an Nxivm leader.
Down in New York.
In New York. And inside of this group is a sisterhood group of just women called DOS. And for me to explain what DOS means or what it stands for, I have no clue. I didn't write it down.
Okay. But they're basically slaves.
They're slaves, yeah. These women are slaves. They recruit other women to join this group. And basically, the reason why we're introducing this story today is because this man used abortion as part of his of what
Just a
he
normal-
did.
yeah.
Yeah, he would abuse these women, and he had sex with 12 and 13-year-old girls. And he would use abortion regularly, which means that Planned Parenthood or wherever he took these girls did not report.
Well, the weird thing to me was his lawyer was trying to keep abortion out of the deal because he said he used abortion cavalierly with these women.
Yes.
Well, when you have a sex cult, what are you going to do with the pregnancies?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to get rid of them for sure. And the guy's name is Keith Raniere, and anybody can go look up Nxivm Keith Raniere. He even recruited an actress, Allison Mack. She's more of the millennial generation, I believe.
A lot of millennials are following this story because of the actress that was involved in this, and she was like a higher up, and some people are like, "Oh, she was forced to do it or brainwashed," but it
was a choice.
Yeah.
It was a choice.
Just like these women that got into this sex cult was a choice.
Yeah.
They, should have said no, and then they didn't. They got raped and, abused, and now dead babies are a result of it.
Yeah, exactly. And
apparently a bunch of dead babies.
a lot of, because they don't want the abortion aspect to even be a part of the jury, the trial that's going on. They want it to be a totally separate thing. And anyways, it's a very convoluted story.
These women were basically sex slaves. That's exactly they call them that, basically.
Yeah.
And these women, when they would recruit more women into the deal, they would hold these women down and brand them with his initials.
And her initials, Keith Raniere and Allison Mack's initials. I mean, there was just a lot of money that was going through this. And anyways, he is in jail right now, so thank you, Lord.
The salient point is one you brought up a minute ago, though. They're doing this on very young kids.
Yes.
Lots of abortions. That means some of them were done on young kids.
Yes.
And whoever did the abortions, probably Planned Parenthood, never said a word
Did not
to anybody.
report. Exactly.
Didn't say a word. And people might say, well, how do they know that this is happening? They don't have to know. If the girl's 12 or 13 years old, they're supposed to report it no matter what they know.
Right. But it wasn't just young girls. It was adults, too. So the first step is not to join a cult. The second step is to try to get out of the cult so they don't murder your baby.
And don't lure anybody else into it.
Exactly.
And brand them.
Yeah, and it's really sad, just the whole thing of it. But he manipulated his daughter when she was in college and her roommate. And there's just a lot to the story.
Sick. But the other thing is, it reinforces the early feminist view of why they oppose the legalization of abortion, because it always profits sexually irresponsible, and in this case, sexually predatory males.
That's right.
That's who profits, and we see, this is not the only example of this. We see this on a routine basis, that's who profits from legalized abortion.
Yeah, that's right. And then we also have an article. Tony Evers, a Wisconsin governor, is vetoing a bill protecting abortion survivors from infanticide. And this is so angering. I mean, it's so disgusting. He said that it would create a division if a bill like this, a Born Alive bill, was introduced.
Well, that's the excuse that other governors have used, other politicians have used. So he's just another one in a long list of politicians who have vetoed these
They're
bills.
trying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he said it's not a productive use of time.
Right.
Not a productive use of time to protect a baby that's born alive after an abortion.
Yeah. Well, because he says there's already bills in place for that, which is not true.
It's not true.
Well,
not
and their
true.
excuse is that babies aren't being born alive and being killed after they survive abortions. I can't tell you how many politicians have said that lie.
Right.
And then politicians and groups have jumped on Trump for saying that yes, babies are born alive.
Right.
And all people have to do is go to our YouTube page, our Life Dynamics YouTube page, and look at our Babies Born Alive video. It's 3 abortion workers who say that yes, babies are born alive daily, and then they're left to die. It happens across the country on a daily basis.
Right.
These people cannot say that it doesn't happen because it does.
And it's not a matter of just putting them aside somewhere and letting them just expire. In the case that we're talking about, the video you're talking about, they talked about active participation.
And killing them.
Killing the
Yeah.
babies, jabbing sharp instruments through the soft spot of their skull, pushing their thumb into their thorax,
Suffocating
twisting their
them.
heads off.
Yeah.
But in this case, they want to leave the baby in comfort to die. This is not a women's rights issue. This is a human being's
Right.
issue.
Well,
Well, and
it's-
they say they're trying to do it to protect women's health. Let me ask you a question, Renee.
It has nothing to do with it.
You're not a medical professional, right?
No.
Okay, but can you tell me how, when they're separated,
Yeah.
how what you do to that baby affects that woman's health?
Right.
Well,
Can you tell me that?
abortion has nothing to do with women's health, period.
Right.
Baby, woman who's pregnant. Baby, woman who's pregnant.
Yeah.
They're 2 separate human beings.
Right.
You
Right.
cannot tell me that from the moment of fertilization that it's about women's health. It is not.
It has nothing to do with women's health. It has to do with the money that's made from killing these babies.
Yeah.
And it always comes down to that.
The lies are twisted and thoughts of the devil.
Yep.
Yeah.
Stacey Adams, who lost in the race to win the governorship of Georgia, is saying now that recent efforts by the pro-life movement to put restrictions on access to abortion are what she called forced pregnancy
Yeah. Right.
bills. Now, Renee, I've been at this almost 40 years. You've been in it 8 years now.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of any pro-lifer saying women should be forced to be pregnant?
No, absolutely not.
Or to get pregnant?
It's a choice the women make.
Like
when-
we're out marauding around the countryside looking for unpregnant women and saying, hey, it's your turn in the barrel. You got to be pregnant.
Well, I mean, pro-choicers, pro-aborts call pro-lifers all the time forced birthers.
Right.
Yeah.
We're saying you can't kill the baby. When a woman is pregnant, the pregnancy has already occurred. We're not trying to force her to be pregnant.
Right. She does it herself. This is,
Even in the case of rape,
yes.
we're not trying to force her to be raped or force her to be pregnant. The pregnancy is already a reality. The baby is already a reality. What we're saying is you can't kill that baby.
But we need more babies in America. I mean, we do need that. There are more elderly people than there are babies.
That's
children.
not just in America, but it's across
Yeah, it's
the
worldwide.
world.
But the interesting thing here is this woman, Stacey Adams, is black.
Abrams.
And she talks about how this is particularly effective, detrimental to African American women to not have their full range of reproductive choices.
Right.
First off, when you're pregnant, reproduction is over. We're into gestation now. This has nothing to do with reproduction, so she's lying about that. But for a black woman to come out here knowing full well that black women in America are being disproportionately targeted by the abortion lobby, and we have proven this beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Yes.
We have a printed report that people can get from us, or they can go online and read it. Black women are 5 times as likely to have an abortion in America as white women are.
Yep.
In Georgia, black women make up 32.2% of the population, female population. They have 62% of the abortions.
She has been sold the bill of lies, and I suggest that she watches Moffat 21 to see exactly what's going on there.
Well,
You know what, Renee? She could watch my Alpha 21 and be able to quote it verbatim. It would not make any difference.
Well, I have to say that an update on Stacey Abrams. Just this morning, she announced that she wasn't going to run for a Senate seat in Georgia anymore. She said that she was going to do everything in her power to get a Democrat elected for Georgia.
Well, good. Well, anyway, I'm going to probably anger some people here with what I'm about to say, but it's a fact. It's true. Well, they can be mad if they want. I always say when people are mad at me, they got a whole lifetime to get glad again. Let me tell you what people like Stacey Adams are like. I didn't know this until we were doing it took us years to do the research for my Alpha 21, and then it took me a year to write the script for it. And I had never come across this before. But did you know that there were actually blacks during the time of slavery who either were given their freedom or earned it or whatever, they became free, and then went out and bought slaves themselves? There were black slave owners in America. As a matter of fact, one of the biggest slave owners in North Carolina was a black guy. They sold out their own people. They made profit off the enslavement of their own people. That's what this woman is. Yeah. She is making profit, political profit, maybe not financial profit, but she is politically profiting from being a schlep for the abortion lobby, knowing full well that her people are disproportionately attacked by the abortion lobby for elimination. And we absolutely proved it with the report I was talking about and in my Alpha 21.
Yeah, and racial targeting.
Right, and racial targeting report.
Yep.
And I'm just saying, this woman is no better than those people. She's cut from the same cloth as those people.
Yeah.
And it's an obscenity.
I agree with that.
And speaking of more obscenities, Sheila's got a couple of them she wants to bring up when we come back. But right now, let's take out a few minutes for robots.
In 1973, the U.S. Supreme Court legalized abortion nationwide. The decision is called Roe v. Wade, and those who defend it are known as robots. This is how they think.
Most people are pro-choice, and there is no consensus in America for outlawing abortions.
There has never been even one poll that showed majority support for the country's existing abortion-on-demand policy. At most, polls find that public support for abortion is limited to the hard cases only. Generally, this includes rape, incest, threat to the mother's physical life, and fetal deformity. Since even abortion industry studies show that only a tiny fraction of abortions are done for these reasons, this means that most Americans do not support most of the abortions that are actually done. The abortion lobby's own actions prove that their pro-choice majority rhetoric is a lie. If these people honestly thought that a majority of the public was behind their abortion-on-demand position, they would be steering the issue into the legislatures where public opinion is most powerful. But instead, they have spent almost 5 decades doing whatever it takes to keep the abortion issue out of the political process and in the courts, where public opinion is basically meaningless. It should also be pointed out that if consensus is going to be the guiding principle behind the nation's abortion policy, that is just one more reason to support pro-life legislation. After all, in 1973, when the Supreme Court issued Roe v. Wade, there was certainly no consensus for legalizing abortion on demand, and we can correct that error by restoring protection to the unborn. We should also remember that in 1850, there was no consensus in America for outlawing slavery or allowing women to vote. There was even a time when consensus was that the earth is flat. The fact is, world history is littered with examples where the word consensus simply meant that most of the fools and idiots were on one side of an issue. A moment ago, I made a mistake. I identified this woman from Georgia as Stacey Adams. Her name was Stacey Abrams. So we'll correct that.
And hopefully we won't hear too much from her because, like I said, she's said she wasn't going to run for Senate anymore.
That's good.
So.
Sheila, you came up with some stuff here. We started talking about this last week, and then during the week you came up with some more information about this issue of France is now proclaiming that trees should have rights.
Well, it started actually with New Zealand. New Zealand passed legislation in 2017 saying that the Whanganui River now is holding rights and responsibilities that are equivalent to a person. People can sue on behalf of the river for rights and stuff if, they think its rights are being violated. Then France proclaimed that trees should have rights equal to humans. And then in February of 2019, voters in Toledo, Ohio, approved a ballot to give Lake Erie rights normally associated with the person.
They're trying to pass all of this legislation to make rivers and trees and whatever, anything in nature.
A forest.
The more rights than what a baby has here.
Well, it's these environmental groups that are pushing
Yes.
for it. And one group that campaigns for stuff like this is called Extinction Rebellion, and they are working really hard to give more and more pieces of nature rights.
Yeah, these
human
trees,
rights.
they live longer than us, and we don't want to stop them from having more tree babies. And
Right. Well, are they gonna support tree abortions?
well, yeah,
Probably not.
Probably not. They would probably throw a fit. That's why they're trying to make them a.
This is a classic example of, because these are basically environmental groups that are doing this. Environmental groups now who are saying human beings, should not be allowed to have children because they create a carbon footprint. Yeah. Well, all these things create a carbon footprint of some sort.
Yeah.
But this is an example of nutcases out here, and there's always been nutcases. It's just that governments didn't give them a seat at the table like they're doing now, who believe that we should worship the creation and not the creator.
Well, and they believe that human beings are basically parasites,
Right.
just like unborn babies are like cancer in the
Right.
womb.
Oh, they're saying that.
Exactly. And they believe that, we should work hard to try to eliminate people so that, the earth can be free and natural again and rid of human parasites.
I'm often reminded of that statement from 1984, from the book 1984. There will come a time when some things are so stupid that only an intellectual could believe them, and this is a good example of that. These people all hold themselves out as intellectuals, and we're the unwashed masses because they support all of these weird deals. And speaking of intellectuals that support outrageous, stupid things, in 1950, Albert Einstein wrote that the presumption that humans are separate from nature is an optical delusion of consciousness and something of a cultural prison. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circles of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. And now these people are putting this into law and saying trees have rights, rivers have rights, forests have rights.
Well, it's one thing to say, yes, let's take care of.
We should take care of nature.
Exactly, and which
Right.
is what I believe he was saying. But to give nature human rights is something completely different.
Well, there's an old saying about the American Indians. The view of American Indians was that we did not inherit the land from our ancestors. We borrowed it from our children. And I think as long as we keep that in perspective, if that's a good way to look at that your children are going to have to, and Sheila's going to have to live in the land that I live behind. Your children are going to have to live in the land that you leave behind. That's an appropriate way to look at this. But to then say that trees have rights and rivers have rights, and they're even talking about forest, and there's some other things and they're calling this reproductive or justice. This is natural justice or something. I've heard that term thrown around. I mean, these people are nuts.
They're putting, plant organic matter over humans
Right.
with, spirits and souls.
And it's
Crazy.
It's like I used to say about the issue of animal rights, and everybody here knows there's nobody loves animals more than me or you two, the same deal. But they're not the same as us. They don't have the same rights that we have. We're human beings. And yeah, we need to protect children. We need to, animals. But to equate a human being with a squirrel is the same as saying if you were driving to work this morning and you hit a squirrel, you would be just as upset as if you ran over somebody's 5-year-old child. Don't tell me that's true. I challenge anyone, the most rabid animal rights activist to come tell me that the average person is going to feel as upset about hitting a squirrel accidentally as running over somebody's 5-year-old child.
The average person, but these people aren't average people.
Right, that's true. And and the other thing too, and we're out of time, but the other thing too about this deal, and it applies to this tree rights and river rights and all this other nonsense, in the context of animal rights. If animals have rights, if an animal has a right parallel to what a human has, how do we protect that right against other animals? Surely that right is attendant to the victim, right? Not to the animal that's doing the attacking. So if right now in Africa a lion is attacking a wildebeest, how do we go protect that wildebeest from that lion?
We can't.
And how are we going to feed that lion? Once we protect the wildebeest and the lion can't eat that wildebeest. The whole thing is so preposterous.
It's pretty messed up.
Or, out here, if there, Denton has a lot of coyotes that run loose. There's a coyote problem in Denton. Mm-hmm. And they kill cats and they kill other animals, other coyotes. How do we protect those animals? How do we protect the rights of those animals? Is it do we only protect their rights when their rights are violated by humans, or do they have rights that have to be recognized even if they're attacked by other animals? The whole thing is so preposterous. But again, it gets into this situation where these people don't have a scriptural basis for what they're saying. They don't recognize that Scripture recognizes the superiority of humans over animals, and they worship the creation and not the Creator. That's the bottom line to all of this. And I still say the biggest problem, we're in a cultural civil war in this country, and that I don't think there's any doubt about that. And the fundamental problem here is that we have a nation that is being taken over by the godless of the country. This is a conflict, this cultural civil war that we have right now is between the godless and the God-fearing. That's where we are. And the quicker we recognize that and act on it, the better off we're going to be.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Scripture.
Y'all got anything?
Just people saying hi. Bruce and Lawrence Stuckey said hello. They actually said bonjour.
Bonjour.
Yeah.
Bonjour.
Doug said good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you for joining us. If you have any show ideas, let us know, and we may use it on the show. If not,
No, if we do.
if we do use it on the show,
If not, we won't.
if we do use it on the show, we'll give you a mug. We'll send this mug to you. It's our cool little Life Dynamics
Official
mug.
Life
Yes.
Dynamics genuine mug.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. We forgot this morning. I forgot to introduce you last week,
Yeah.
and I forgot to introduce Ernie, our frill-necked lizard mascot.
Yeah.
All right, and sometimes we call him the frill-necked Republican.
Right.
Because he
Just
runs.
depends on
Right, runs
what's going on.
whatever's going on. But anyway, there's Ernie, and he's with us every week, and as you are. You'd have really been insulted last week if I didn't introduce you, but I did introduce
Ernie.
I did introduce Ernie.
I would have introduced myself.
Yeah, all right. All right, that's all the time we have. Until next time, remember, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight. We're here to win, because winning is how the killing stops. We'll see you next Tuesday.